Good morning, West USA. Welcome to another edition of our Monday morning webinar. Appreciate everybody joining us today, and we trust that everybody had a very, very productive weekend. I had a productive weekend on my pellet smoker. So I'm full.
I went out to Wickenburg Ranch to check that out.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody joining us. A little sneak peek of what we got coming up today. Of course, we got Todd here to give us a look at the numbers. Matt Baker is going to be here with our Mortgage Minute. We hope and we think, and Minnie and I we're gonna carry on a long conversation today about making calls. She's going to join me on the 3-pack, and I'm going to talk about 3 things that you need to know when it comes to making calls. And then a lot of people don't know about Minnie Thompson, but she is a national coach and she works with top producers nationwide. And she's going to give a little bit of insight as to what her coaching clients are doing to be successful when on the phones. As always, if you got any comments or questions, please feel free to email us at webinar@westusa. All right, we got a slew of announcements, so we're just going to run through these. Coming up tomorrow in person, Sue Fluke and Susan Herber talking about growing your skills in today's marketplace. As always, please note that all of these events, and we can't put all of the events on the webinar, but always go to the calendar on your dashboard, take a look at what's coming up, and get signed up for the events. Dean Becker has got an in-person CE class tomorrow at 9 a.m., 3 hours of fair housing. All right, HomeBot. We're doing a class up here in the corporate office talking about HomeBot. HomeBot's a great program to keep in touch with your clients. I'm just in full disclosure just going to say get an upgraded iFound Agent website, and you can do the exact same thing but drive people to your website. But this is a great opportunity and a great resource. We also have a class coming up, 3 hours of contract law at the Chandler office tomorrow as well, from 1 to 4 on the pre-qualification form. And right, coffee, conversations, collaboration. I wish I could go. We got our team meeting on Wednesday. I always love to hear what Carlos Cicero has to say. So all events are open to all agents from all offices, but this is going to be, I believe, in the Chandler office. So he's going to talk about what makes his business successful. So join him for some coffee and collaboration. Todd's got a CE class, 3 hours of fair housing as well. Coming up, this is remote, coming up Wednesday from 9 to 12. All right, Kierland office meeting is coming up with Kyle Fouts. I just got to say, I stopped by the Kierland office last week and Kyle was not there. Kyle, come on, man. You got to be there. I want to say hi. Anyway, so that's coming up this week. For, again, the Kierland office in person this Wednesday. Awatuki's office meeting featuring Dean Becker is this Thursday from 10:30 to 11:30 down again at the Awatuki office. All right, up here at the corporate office coming up this Thursday, we're doing a special class on 1031 tax exchanges. If you don't know what a 1031 tax exchange is, or you haven't taken one in the last 12 months, get signed up. This is a must skill to have, especially in our marketplace. All right, our coaching division is continuing their class schedules, second Friday of every month. So that is going to be wire fraud coming up this Friday from 10 to 11. Again, you don't necessarily worry about copying that link at the bottom. Go to the calendar on your dashboard. And then lastly, I'm pretty excited about this. Is if anyone knows Carlos Cicero, they know that he's just a community dude, loves to give back. So they're doing a very special breast cancer awareness concert Saturday, October 1st. This is a great opportunity to buy a table for $500. You can buy a table for 10 people, invite your clients, invite your sphere of influence. This is part of cause marketing, so definitely take advantage of this.
And just real quick, Carlos Cicero and his team have been doing nonprofit events for a long time. They really do put on a good event. So not only are you going to be able to give back for a good cause, you're going to have an enjoyable night. So definitely consider this as something that you give to this year.
Yeah, it's always good to give. All right, let's take a look at the market this week. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be going over the Greater Phoenix Metropolitan housing statistics for the week ending August 8th. I apologize. And we're also going to be talking about last month's numbers. So let's get right into it. 38 days closed on market. 3.73 months supply. That's almost a 4-month supply. 26.85% absorption rate. We're sitting at an average list price of $697,800 and an average sale price down to $544,000. Our list price to sale price retention, bells away, 97.99%. Taking a look at inventory, we're up to over 19,000 properties at this point, 19,268. Pending is really low at 3,581. We have closed units month to date a little too early at 1,168. New listings taken this past week, my magic number, we were above 2,400. That's a good sign. Our average for active inventory is averaging 68 days on market and 36 days for closed. Taking a look at our price ranges, we're over 50%. So that under $500,000 market that has been so crippled since the 2019, 2020 COVID took over, that used to represent about 72% of the entire marketplace. It's been down as low as 44%. It's finally creeping back a little bit. In fact, over the last month, the strongest amount of new properties taken listing wise was between 350 and 500,000. So it's really in that part of that pricing. Looking at $500 to $1 million pricing, represent 38% of the entire inventory, running at about 48 days, 49 days on market. And then, of course, our $1 million and up inventory sitting at 11%. That's been relatively consistent, obviously, but again, 83 days on market. So going down just week over week comparisons plus our same week last year and the same week in 2019 for being able to compare the numbers. We took 2,400 listings this week, 2,200, almost 23 only last week. So this is a good sign. We're still in the green ticker. If you slide your eyes to the right into those same week prior periods, you'll see that we're taking more inventory. We're taking more listings than we did in both of those periods. So even when times were exciting and in the early parts of the market expansion, we saw tons of people that were interested in selling their homes and buying new ones, and then of course it cooled off, and we lost a lot of that momentum. Again, because sellers didn't know where they wanted to go, or they couldn't even find potentially a property, and they didn't want to be homeless. So again, our lenders are like those are lenders there that helped us with that process. There we go. So they basically
don't look at me.
They basically came out for a while and they helped us with that. Obviously being able to buy your home before you were able to sell the one that you were in. That was a good thing. That did help for a while. Of course, that program's not really in effect as much today, and we don't need it because there's 19,000 plus properties on the in the inventory today. That's up from 18,600. But if you look to the right, you'll see that even in 2019, this is 3,000 more listings than we had even in 2019. So this is a very, very strong inventory market. We understand the issues that consumers are going through. We understand that money's tight. We understand that budgets are affected by all the increases in the cost of living. But again, cyclically, I want you to understand this has happened, every 10 or 15 years since 1954 that we've been recording statistics in America. I can tell you that we're just seeing this next cycle. So it too shall pass. Taking a look at the distressed inventory, we just are not seeing distressed inventory. Sure, there's been a couple of bumps, kind of like dollar stocks. It's easy for a dollar stock to go to 3 from 1 and have a 300% increase. But the reality is, that isn't. There's still less than 0.2% of 1%. Available in the marketplace. Looking at pending, this is where our world of hurt is right here. We had 3,690 last week. We shrunk to 3,581. Slide your eyes to the right. Last year, we were at 6,100. So we have almost half the people in the marketplace under contract today than we did a year ago. And then again, 3 years ago, we had 5,700. And so it's comfortable to say we have approximately half of the people in the marketplace. We could use an additional 2,000 people in the marketplace. So this is, probably because of interest rates having gone up. But since interest rates have, unless Matt Baker from Fairway is going to tell us something different, they've settled down about a point. So as a result, they're not in the 5 point or 6.25 anymore. They're down in the 5.25 and maybe even under. We'll see. Stay tuned. But again, this is a situation where are we not in a recession? We are statistically statistically. But again, we're not supposed to see home prices have issues. So again, more mortgage programs are out there. We see the 3, 5 to 7 year ARMs. We see the 2-1 buy downs. We've even seen some, stated, not really stated income, but no docs loans that are starting to pop up. That's a little scary comparison to what happened a while back. But again, there are some things in the marketplace that are helping to improve and take the fear away from the consumers, and that's our job. Our job is to remove the fear from your clients. You can't speculate on the future. You can only talk about historical perspective, which is why I'm trying to help you understand that there's cycles, and we're just in another cycle. Is it tough? Yeah, 30 years ago, it was a tough cycle too. 15 years ago, it was a tough cycle. 10 years ago, it was a tough cycle. The fact is it is difficult right now, but again, it just is another cycle. We'll make it through it. 3.73 months supply right now. That's almost 4 if we know anything about the month supply. Between 4 to 6 months supply is a neutral market, and consequently, the sweet spot is about 2.5 to 3 months supply. When you go over 3 months supply, the sellers are, that usually means there's a lot of inventory and not enough buyers. It's not really a normal portion of the marketplace, and that's what we're seeing. Pricing has come down. We're at 544 for the average sale price. We're at only 697 for the average list price. So again, those numbers are coming down more like last year numbers, which would then again, I got something from Inman this morning that says Phoenix is one of the greatest appreciating markets. There's been an increase in the sale price of 36%. That's not accurate. That's maybe a sensationalized comment, but it is really not accurate. So stay tuned, for the information that we're providing, and again, sharing this with your client as a hyper local information. So days on market, we're at 97.99%. Remember, 97.8 is the sweet spot. So under 98 is a really good thing. We don't want it to go too much under, but again, we haven't been in this situation in over 3 years. So a good situation like that. And again, what that means is that's the difference between the list price and the contract price at the time the seller accepted the offer. So last month in July, we finished off with 11,506. That was, again, up just a little bit in new inventory over a year ago. It's down about 11% first June. So we didn't take quite as many listings as we did in June to replenish our inventory, but our inventory has continued to grow. We're about 4,000 properties more than we were the month before in June. So July was a good month from that perspective. 4,421. This is where we finally started to see the drop. We were at 4,800 people in escrow at any one time. Last month we dropped to 44. As you saw the numbers. We're at 35 right now. This is really the portion of the market that is causing people, realtors, to not have enough volume. This is the area we have to get good at explaining what's going on in the market to our consumers. 6,178 is what we finished with. Last time we saw 6,100 closings was November of 2014. So I took a historical perspective back, and so this is really low. Looking at our July statistics, we're at 9,142 the year before, a year prior to that. So again, you're 3,000 closings different between year over year. Taking a look at the average inventory, we closed last month at 3.15 months supply. We were at only a 1 month supply a year prior to that. So again, we certainly have that inventory. Average list price has been about 723. That's down from 748 a year ago. So again, we're down 3.31% from a year ago in the average list price of properties. Taking a look at the average sale price of 547, we were at 498. So we are at 9.9. If you remember our conversation, Mike, in the beginning of the year, we started telling everybody to expect an 8% approximate appreciation and increase, and that's very, very close to what we're getting. Certainly not 28 or 38%. Yeah. And then the final numbers down here are the 98.2% list price to sale price retention is what we closed out last month. If you look to the right, we were at 99.8% the month prior. So what you're actually seeing right now is the stabilization, as we talked about, in the marketplace. And as a result, that's the equilibrium, and that means that the numbers are good. All we need, Mike, is more people in the marketplace.
Yep, I'm just needing more buyers. All right, appreciate it, Todd, as always. I'm going to bring in Matt Baker, so hopefully, Matt.
One of the things I love about that number, a 2014 number, and looking back, is there's like almost 800,000 more people here too, and to have that, it just goes to show you that what buyers are concerned about. So don't hide it. I mean, address it, be upfront with it, like go aggressive, attack those points.
And have solutions.
And to be the lender Debbie Downer, yes, rates haven't gone down as low as you would like them to go. And one of the things I'm going to talk about today, I mean, you can see this here, right? We're in the fives. I mean, what I like is jumbos are better in the fours, but here's where I'm seeing clients. They're looking at ARMs. They're considering these other things because even in the worst of markets, you're at 3% appreciation. We haven't been at 3% appreciation for, forever, right? I mean, it's been a long, long time. So even if you go off buying a 5% down home, 3% appreciation times 5 years, that's 15. That's where you would be at 20% to refinance. So why not look at 5 and 7 year adjustable rate mortgages? Because these are things that, and maybe I'll add that column there because I think that that could help you. But let's talk a little bit about the jobs report that came out, because the jobs number came out Thursday-ish, and it was double what they were expecting. What do you think happened to rates as a result? They got hammered. They got hammered because, the economy's not as bad as you think it is, right? So, because again, recession leads to lower rates. And so if you're not in a recession, you're still in a growing economy, then we have inflation, and therefore inflation is going to push rates higher. So this is this battle going on between sort of the jobs number, the inflation number. How does it all play out? Well, listen, we had double the amount than we thought of total jobs, but again, the unemployment rate only adjusted slightly. And I think the big thing that's not being really actively reported is the amount of people leaving the workforce, which that's why the unemployment rate didn't just, exponentially drop. Because when you think, oh my gosh, all these new jobs added, you would think that would involve a even much lower unemployment rate. Well, all of this sort of being said, and this is where, I love it, because on, before the jobs report, the day before, the media finally reports rates are at their lowest they've been in 6 months or something, right? And so what happened? Well, when the jobs number came out, those red lines mean rates got worse. We bounced a little off of that, but this is basically the last week of rates, which is, if you actually draw a line from the red line down to the black line, kind of in that S2 number, they're gone up a little bit, right? And so what most people don't realize is that when the Fed raises rates, they're doing that they're looking in the rear view. And similar is those media reports of where rates are. So what happened was it was like Wednesday or Thursday. The media is like, rates have hit, they're all Fannie Mae or the Freddie Mac rate, which is a rate that they track, was at their lowest level in 7 months. And then what happened? The market jumped 100 basis points in one day because of the jobs number. And so I kind of, if you go to the next slide, I account that to the media curse, right? Like I screenshotted like Google's, rating, like mortgage rates drop below 5, blah, blah, blah. And then literally the next day, rates spike up as a result. And you're like, so what did I have to field on Friday is all the clients going, hey, I heard rates dropped. Right, because that's what they see in the media. But again, they always look in the rear view, and that's what data is in general, right? You're always looking kind of behind. You're looking, in the past, and so you just have to be really cognizant that rates are super fluid and they're moving constantly, and it's really impossible as a buyer to try to time the market, whether it's real estate or mortgage rates, right? You just have to kind of prepare a client for all these different scenarios and say, listen, here's where your ranges be. And this is what we try to teach them. Here's the range would be, and just be careful about what they're seeing historically speaking, because guess what? In a week, when Freddie Mac comes out with their new number, it's going to be higher. And so you just have to be prepared for how fluid the market is. But that's, I think if I'm going to leave you with anything today, I heard a story this weekend about a renter who had to qualify to rent a house at 4 times the rent. So that's 25%. That's like a housing ratio of 25%. If that's the case, you should be buying.
Yeah.
Right. And so there are, I imagine, a gigantic fishing pool of renters that need to be talked to, and I'm happy to have conversations with them, but let's get involved. I need your help for that. So, agents, get out there, talk to people about this situation, because I think a lot of people think they just have to rent because they don't have money or whatever, and there's programs out there that can help, and that's what we're here to try to educate.
So real quick, we always talk about in real estate, setting up Google alerts so that we can keep track of what's going on in the market. Where's the best place for us as agents to go to stay on top every day where rates are at?
Well, I would just come to the webinar and listen to my weekly, because I'm going to give you a little bit better idea of real-time rates. The challenge is that there is really no good source to do that. You can watch the 10-year Treasury. You can listen to other reports. I subscribe to like mortgage-backed security stuff, but that's more technical. That's not really going to be where your wheelhouse is. So I would just say tune in here and then follow through with where we are, and just have broad conversations about where you need to be. And again, whether it's ARMs, find out the hot button of where a client is. Is it rate? Is it out of pocket expense? Is it payment? And then let's get involved the lender quickly so that we can help hopefully motivate them to buy.
All right, Matt, appreciate it. As always, great information. All right, we're going to get right into the 3-pack. And so today I brought in Mindy Thompson to kind of help me with the 3-pack, because then we're going to go into your segment, which is going to be a lot of the same topic, but different aspects of it. Because at the end of the day, Mindy, there is no way around it. If you want to succeed in this business, you've got to be picking up the phone, making calls, and you got to be going out and having real estate conversations. Business just doesn't magically fall into your lap, but sometimes it does. Sure. But not enough to really get to where we want to go. So I want to talk about, first thing I want to say is the numbers don't lie. So when we take a look at internet leads, and whether you're working Zillow leads, Realtor.com leads, or whatever the case is, you can expect per 100 leads that you get, they say that you can expect to close 1.6 to 1.7 transactions. So what I have found is if you're bringing on other sources, and if you're picking up the phone, making calls, and having new real estate conversations, every 100 new calls that you make, and or 100 real estate conversations, meaning whether you're at open houses, your kid's ball game, you're talking to parents, for every 100 of these conversations, it should result into closings. So do the math. If you want 12 closings in the next 12 months, you've got to find 600 people to talk to. The numbers don't lie. If this number overwhelms you, then may not be the business for you.
It may not. And, the more experienced you get as a real estate agent, the more that number will start to come down. Mm-hmm. So brand new real estate agent is going to have to talk to a lot more people to convert into appointments than, for instance, yourself. So if you don't know that unless you're tracking it. So the numbers don't lie, but you got to know where they stand. So you need to be tracking your conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and really, like I said, just at the end of the day, you have got to understand, your real estate license. If you go on to the Department of Real Estate and download your real estate license, it says salesperson. Okay. It doesn't say social media expert and Instagram, whatever, it says salesperson. And so I always know, for me, and I always explain to my team, when I my pipeline is always a direct reflection of my phone activity. So if I take a look at my pipeline and I'm looking at my pipeline going, oh boy, my wife's going to be upset, I know I can look back and say, I haven't been working the phones. And then if I look at my pipeline and going, wow, okay, mom was getting a new handbag, right? I can look back and say my phone activity is where it needs to be. But then if that's where you're at, don't take the foot off the pedal.
Exactly. And that's so hard for so many people as we go feast and famine in this industry. And you can't, when times are good, and I remind my coaching clients all the time, like, things are great, your pipeline looks great, work harder.
All right. So the second thing, did you mess with the screen, Nick?
No.
You're fired, man.
No.
All right. So, who to call? And I know part you're going to talk about as well, but this is, when I plan out my week and I take a look at the categories of who I'm going to call. I'm generally picking from these five. Number one, I'm always focusing on my top ambassadors, and on our team we call it the Recon 12. Who are the 12 people in your life that should and could be sending you referrals and maintaining those relationships on a monthly basis? And then you go beyond that and you take a look at your entire sphere of influence. Your entire sphere of influence, you should be able to sit down and say, here are 100 people that are I would consider in my sphere of influence. The top 12 are my ambassadors. So now I've got 88 other people that I've inputted into my CRM system. I'm setting up alerts and I'm calling and having these real estate conversations. I think sometimes one of the biggest things that falls through, or the biggest group that falls through the cracks, are past clients. You've got to set aside time to say, okay, I got to go back and say who I've closed in the past 12, 24, 36 months. Go back and rekindle those relationships if you're not staying on top of them. And then, your database, just going through your database on a regular basis. And then sometimes I'll just scroll down my phone and just go and just start going and go, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to that person in a while. I should pick up the phone and call them. I haven't talked to this person in a while, or sometimes I'm even on, and I don't have it on here, on Facebook. I always try to have a piece of paper and a pen around. So sometimes I'm driving and I shouldn't be driving and writing at the same time, but I sometimes do. But I'll be driving down the road and go, oh my gosh, I got to call Nick. I haven't talked to Nick in a while, and I write that name down. Or when I'm on social media and someone engages in one of my posts, I'm like, man, I haven't talked to that person in a while. And that's, because I have a couple high school buddies that we've talked about investing in real estate. They popped up on my social media feed, got on the phone with him. I'm going out to California next month. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about investing in Arizona.
Good. That's such a good idea. And I don't want to talk over anyone right now. So your SOI.
We'll let Nick do that.
Your SOI is your sphere of influence. What does that mean? Everybody you know. Every single person you know falls in your sphere of influence. And so your family, your friends, your past clients, everyone goes in there. And to Mike's point earlier, your past clients, you already have a business relationship with them. Okay. So yeah, maybe you don't want to call maybe your high school buddy, maybe that's uncomfortable for you. How do I bring in real estate? How do I not make this sound manufactured? Things like that. Well, your past clients, you've already done business with them. And here's the deal that I also want everyone to remember is, even if it wasn't the smoothest transaction in the world, even if there was some rocky finishing at the closing table, whatever the case, they forget. And so let some time go by, let the dust settle. When you call them, it's going to be like they almost didn't even remember in most cases. And if they tell you where to go, good. Now you have one less person on your list to call.
It's funny that you say that. I've got this lady, when we closed, she just wasn't happy with us. And she let me know that. But, I have my follow-up system, so I stayed with it. And now, fast forward 9 months later, she sent me 2 referrals. Both of these referrals are family members.
Love that.
So when we started this conversation, I was like 80% listening because I was testing something on the system. So I apologize if you already went over this. Can you explain, if you haven't already, what is a top ambassador?
Yeah. Yeah, we did explain that, but
Okay.
those are your, most people, like if you're part of Marge Lindsay's Pro Start, she'll talk about your top 10 people. For us, it's our Recon 12, the top 12 people in our life that could and should be sending you referrals, and put together a system on how you identify them, how you follow up with them. For me and my top ambassadors, it's a monthly. I'm following up and I'm touching them every single month.
So I asked that again because what I get a lot, especially when we have the shift in the market, is agents start calling, asking for their past clients. I need all the information on my past clients. I didn't keep any of that information, which shame on you. But what my conversation with them is, of those past clients, if you've got 3 years, who would be considered one of your top ambassadors? I 100% agree you should try to pull that database, but in my opinion, you should be putting more time, energy into those individuals who are most likely going to refer you business now as opposed to someone we did business with 3 years ago.
Granted, but when you go back to my first point, and I say, if you want to make 12 closings this next 12 months, you got to have 600 people to talk to.
100%.
So it's top ambassadors, it's sphere of influence, it's past clients, it's database, it's your lead sources, it's your open houses. And going back to, if you don't have that information about your past clients, and you're obviously not either you don't have a CRM system, or if you have one, if you're not using it, because I can go back on every single one of my clients, pull them up in my CRM and so forth. And sometimes I'll have to open up transaction desk and, and remind myself of price points and things like that. So then, and I know you've got this in your point, but what to say? Okay, so you're going to call your sphere of influence. You're going to call your high school buddies, whatever the case is. Here's what I have found. No one, and I mean nobody, wants to talk to a realtor. We're all one and the same, but everyone wants to talk real estate. I am having more real estate conversations on a daily basis than I ever had, because everybody wants to know what the heck is going on in the market, but nobody really wants to be sold. So it's becoming that resource of, I'm someone that you can come and we can have a talk about real estate, but I'm not necessarily trying to sell you, because that will eventually come. But everybody wants to, you got to know what's on everybody's minds. Are we hitting a recession? If we do, how does that impact the real estate market? What's going on with interest rates? Is there going to be a market crash? I'm getting a lot of, did I miss the boat, of so forth. So you got to know how to respond. You got to know how to overcome these objections. You've got to know the numbers. So congratulations to everybody who's on here listening to Matt's numbers and Todd's numbers. You've got to know the numbers. I had an agent that got into a conversation with a client, and they were talking about interest rates, and the client didn't know that rates dropped, and the client did. Well, that's hard to overcome, And so, one of the things that I just say when I call somebody said, hey, after the chit chat, I know a lot of people that have questions about what's going on in the market. There's a lot of confusion. What questions can I answer for you? And then you'll find their pressure point. You'll find their pain points.
Absolutely. You and I were talking about this last week. I don't think it's ever been easier to talk to our sphere of influence than it is right now, just with all the media sensationalizing kind of what Matt was just talking about, all the headlines we're seeing. Everyone's got questions. Everyone's wondering. But you said it. You have to know the numbers. You have to. And right now, you've got to be watching the market by the week. There are some marketplaces where we don't really need to watch it that closely. Right now, you've got to be watching it by the week. You don't want to get caught with your pants down if you're having a real estate conversation and someone asks you these questions.
And you've also got to know how to interpret the numbers.
Yes.
So when you take a look at Todd's numbers right now, how I'm interpreting that is, I got to pick up the phone, talk to everybody who's thinking about, or I've talked to about buying a home, because there's been no better time in the last 3 to 4 years to buy a home than right now.
I would just say that I'm 37, so I guess you got a couple more years on me than Mikey. But I don't think we've ever had a situation where we're as suspect as mainstream media as we ever have been. It used to be we'd listen to the news and that was what was going on in the world. Now everybody questions what they hear in mainstream media. Be the source of the information to your sphere of influence. Going on social media, sharing the information off the webinar, which we talk about all the time, but just be that extra voice talking about what is actually happening in the real estate market, and people will listen to you.
All right, so now we're going to flip it. We're going to let now Mindy kind of take charge and lead the conversation, but a lot of people don't know. Obviously you are our corporate recruiter here at West USA, but you are also a coach on the national scene and work with top producing agents across the country. So I asked you to kind of give me some insight on what your top producing agents are doing when it comes down to phone activity. And let's start with they're working the phones.
Plain and simple. Okay. I'm in the business of hiring real estate agents. Okay. And at least once a week, I have a conversation with somebody getting into the business, or maybe even someone who's struggling. And one of the first things they say is, I'm not going to be calling people. I'm not going to be cold calling people. And I'm not going to be salesy. Like you said, their license says salesperson on it. But, I don't. Okay, fine. That's okay. Good luck. Probably good riddance.
Set your goals really low.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I mean, if you want to do 2 transactions a year, then great. But if you're wanting to be a top producing agent, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to remind you. So we are in the business of talking to people. Every day that goes by that you are not talking to people, you have a closed sign on your business. Okay. So if you don't want to work the phones, fine. There's a whole lot of other ways to talk to people, but none in the amount of time as phones. So you can knock doors, you can have social media conversations, you can do all these things, but there's no way you're going to get as many contacts per hour as you will on the phone. And I will remind everyone, once again, I'm in the business of hiring real estate agents. The more successful the real estate agent is, the more likely they are to take my call. And it's a fact.
Interesting.
And the most successful ones.
Well, that's good because, I don't know what that says. You called me over the weekend and I didn't answer.
You didn't pick up. You did call me back though.
But
you did call me back.
I was at Walmart.
It was nighttime and you did call me back. But the least successful agents, they don't take your call. Their voicemail box is full. Their voicemail says, text me. Hi, this is Mindy, the real estate agent. Just hang up and text me. Those are the less successful ones. And I'll tell you what, the more successful the agent, the more likely they are to take my call. And guess what? The really, really, really successful ones normally return my call while I'm leaving them a voicemail. Mm-hmm. They're not screening their calls. They're just picking, hey, someone wants to give me money. They're going to pick up their phone.
So, and then people go, well, we get so many cold calls. So I've changed my mentality on all these cold calls. If you cold call me, whether you're a windshield place or selling solar, I'm going to try to sell you a house.
Sure.
And one of these days I'm going to close someone and then they get off the phone really quick, but I'm just going to practice. But, I can't speak for you guys, but it's kind of like I equate this to uber wealthy people. And if you think about the most wealthiest people that you know on the face of the planet, I don't know any wealthy people that don't have real estate in their portfolios. And this is what I say to my buyers, and this is what I say to my investors. I don't know any successful top producing real estate agents that don't have good phone habits and phone activity.
It's really true. So my takeaway for you guys all right now, my challenge for you, check your messages, clear out your voicemail box. One of my bigger pet peeves as a coach is when I call one of my clients, their voicemail box is full. Make sure your voicemail box is empty and answer your phone. Just answer your phone. Plain and simple. People thank me every single week for answering my phone. Answering their call. I always think it's the weirdest thing.
It's not a badge of honor that your voicemail is full.
Yeah,
I promise you it's not. It's just talk about having a closed sign on your business.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta go through my voicemail. All right, number 2.
They time block.
They time block. I can't impress on how important this is.
And why do we all refuse to do it, Mike?
I don't know, because I think I don't know why, and I'll let you go because I've got a couple thoughts and a couple, things that I do on approaching time block. But, I teach my team, you have to time block. Like we have an Excel spreadsheet where we put in all the things that we do each week and stuff that's not making you money, we highlight red. Stuff that's making you money, like calling, highlight green. And then you can print it out and you got a really good idea of your balance of whether you've got enough money making activities in your weekly schedule.
Exactly. We resist time blocking. We resist being disciplined with schedules. It is not sexy. It's not fun, but you want to be successful. You want to sell more homes this year. It's going to be something that you'll do. So they time block. They assign times to their daily activities. You will either plan your day and work it, or you will chase after your day every single day.
And it's got to be on your calendar.
It has to be on your calendar. It has to be written. It can be written in pencil if you want. That's what I tell my clients, because schedules change and things happen. But certain things have to get done every day. Okay, so no matter how busy or how slow you are, certain things need to get done every day. Mike calls them their green blocks. I call them income producing activities. What are income producing activities? Talking to people, following up on your leads, and preparing for and going to appointments. That's it. If you're not doing one of those three things, I would challenge you and say that you're probably wasting some time. So my challenge, once again, if you want to take away from this, is look at your schedule from last week. Wherever you keep it, if you keep a planner or if you keep a Google Calendar like myself, go look at your calendar and look at each day. And if half of all of those work days weren't in talking to people, following up on leads, and preparing for and going to appointments, then you're mismanaging your time.
Yeah. And I would also say, I would throw in there too, is you have to put in time during the week where you're around people so that you can have real estate conversations, whether it's a hiking club or kids ball game or setting up events with friends and things like that, because that's part of it. Just, you got to be in positions to have real estate conversations, and you got to be ready to have a real estate conversation. I was at American Family Furniture last week, and my reps, we bought a bunch of furniture for our Airbnb. Well, now he's coming to our team meeting. He's going to get his license, and but it's just, you're on call.
Yes.
All the time to have real estate conversations. So a couple tips that I throw out for time blocking with your calendar. Number one is, in the event that something does pop up and you've time blocked Thursday from 10 to 12 to make calls, if something pops up where you're going to go show a home or whatever the case is, you have to reschedule that. You've got to put it in somewhere else so that it gets done. And then number two is, I'm not a podcast person. I know you and Nick, do podcasts and things like that, but you're also not selling, right? So I'm selling. So that drive time, that is some of my best time to really just pick up the phone and check in with people. So, all right, number three, I love this. This is really good because I don't even do this. So this was challenging for me, but they set specific goals for the number of conversations. I'm going to say I do that, but I don't take it that next step of, because here's my number of calls I want to make, but how many appointments do I want to set? And that's my next step.
Good for you, Mike.
Yeah.
Always learning and growing. I'm so happy to hear it. Yeah. Something about paying a coach $1,000 a month makes it kind of hit your goals. And so that's the problem for those of us that don't have that level of accountability or skin in the game, is we let ourselves off the hook. But there is a specific amount of conversations that everybody should be having a day, depending on where they're at and where they're looking to go. Okay, if you're making all the money you want to make and everything's great, hey, you're good. If you want to make more, if you want to do more, then this is something you really need to look at. Very, very simply, take the number of houses you want to sell this year. I want to sell 10 houses this year. How many of those are going to come to me by way of referral, my sphere of influence, stuff like that? Let's say I say 3. Okay, so I want to sell 10 houses. I think 3 will come to me. I need to talk to a minimum of 7 people a day. So just subtract it.
Okay.
If you want to sell 20 houses this year, you think 10 are going to come to you, you need to talk to 10 a day. That's where I normally start with the client. Then we start to fine tune depending on their results. Maybe that number will go up a little bit. Maybe it'll come down a little bit. Once you track for about 90 days, you'll start to see some trending happen. So
Interesting.
Set yourself a specific amount of conversations that you want to have every day. And here's the deal. Voicemails don't count. Emails don't count unless they respond. Facebook messages don't count unless they respond. So actual conversations with people. I would challenge you to set that number for yourself and Make that your goal. I'm not going to leave this desk today till I've talked to X amount of people.
So what for my goals, and I do a little different, but actually I like yours. I might adopt yours. So my goal for me is to try to make 20 calls a day and talk to 2 to 3 people about real estate somewhere out in the public. And and it varies, but I'm just saying, if you're listening to this webinar and for the next 12 months you made 20 calls a day and talk to 2 to 3 people out in public about real estate a day, you'd be making so much money. It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy.
You'll be making a lot of money, and you'll get to see the way that compounds on top of itself. And, I have clients that their minimum contact goal is 40 a day. They're on the phone for 3 hours a day, and that's part of their every single day. So if you think 10 is too high, fine, start with 5, warm yourself up, get used to it. But there are your competitors. You guys don't want to hear this. You guys have competitors out there burning phones for 4 hours every single morning, and they're going to make $400,000 this year.
Yeah.
And it's part of the deal. So set a goal for yourself. And then I also challenge, because I want to give people, takeaways is get a buddy and go, I'm going to text Mike. I just sat down at my desk, Mike. I'm not leaving till I call 5 people or till I get a hold of 5 people. Then at the end of that hour, I'm going to go, hey, I only got a hold of 4. Or, hey, I was really lucky. I got 6 on the phone today. But just have somebody that you check in with. It's just like dieting or working out, or, have someone to kind of help you hold your hand to the fire, I guess.
All right. Work multiple sources. Absolutely.
As a coach, I like to see my clients work a minimum of 4 sources at any given time. Okay, what are sources? Those are the people you're having conversations with. So a source is expired listings. A source is for sale by owners. A source is your friends and family. A source is your past clients. So I like to see you have 4 sources that you are actively working at any given time. The idea being you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. COVID taught us that. If we were only door knocking and doing open houses, well, our business was turned completely upside down during COVID. So you want to leverage yourself across multiple sources. Now, your expired listing and your for sale by owner are the only 2 sources who have told you already that they want to sell their home. So it's not that cold of a cold call, because they have literally announced to the world they're interested in selling their home. Those 2 sources will always take the least amount of calls to set the most amount of appointments, because we know we're shooting fish in a barrel. Okay. Not that it's that easy, but now just listed, just sold. You took a listing in a certain neighborhood, or your company, West USA, took a listing in a certain neighborhood. Call around it. There's a phenomenon in real estate. When one house goes up for sale, normally 1 or 2 more go up shortly thereafter. So we want to capture that. And when I'm driving through a neighborhood and I see multiple different listing signs on the same block, I sit there and think, someone didn't do their job in this neighborhood, because they could have had 5 signs out front, So just listed, just sold is a great. Now, we do have to be careful with the do not call list, but there are systems out there that will scrub those numbers for you. You've got RedX, you've got Vulcan, you've got Arch. There are a lot of different sources that will scrub the DNC numbers for you, so you know who not to call. But I would, like I said, take a look at who you're talking to right now. If you're talking to all sphere, that's okay if you're making as much money as you want to be making. So I have a client who does 150 deals a year. Well, she will this year. And so imagine how many past clients she has. I mean, she's been in the business 10 years. She sells 100 homes a year. I only have her working her past clients, because she has enough people in there to support that, right? If you don't have enough people in there to support that, though, you need to be expanding. As a rule of thumb, I only like to see a maximum of 40% of your business coming from sphere of influence, because I like to see you working other sources and building that.
Right. Well, I think, though, with that, though, the ultimate goal is to get to the point where it is all referral based.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, there is that balance. If you're not working your past clients, you will never build a true referral-based business, and that's why it's so important to we call it the after the close system. When when we hand the keys to somebody, what specifically is going to happen over the next 12 months to ensure that you're getting those referrals and so forth. All right, so
I want to say one more thing.
yeah.
Your past clients, all of your past clients should hear from you once a quarter. Okay. That's how often you want to talk to them. And some people, I find, they think it's a little bit uncomfortable to call them. Well, what do I say? Which is my next point. When you close and you're saying the congratulations, all of this stuff, well, you can just say, hey, is it okay if I call you every couple months and keep in touch with you? They're going to say, yes, I'm so happy, Mike. We I'm so excited and all this. So now when I make that first call, I'm going, hey, I told you I was going to check in. How are things? It doesn't have to be uncomfortable, but set them up to expect it.
I agree with you, but that's confusing to me. Like, why I just can't imagine why I would be uncomfortable calling a past client that I've invested all this time in. I mean, I call my past clients and they're like, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" I mean, yeah, okay.
It's counterintuitive, but I talk to people all the time that are just so hesitant to do it.
But I would also say, Nick, on this point, your CRM management is imperative.
Yes.
Well, when you have use your CRM system and you're inputting a contact in there, there's a section to put source, and you can make your own sources, because to Minnie's point, at the end of the year, you want to be able to pull these reports by sources and say, okay, which ones are, where do I double down on year 2 or in year 3?
Well, again, it goes back to the tracking element. If you're tagging your sources correctly, then you can see how many you're connecting with. But I don't remember where I read this, and I'm bummed that I can't. But as I was going through a sales reading, the person who wrote the article said that real estate is the only vertical that calls clients past clients after the close. Now, I understand there's the fiduciary, but they're always a client. They should always be a client. They shouldn't be a past client. You should be treating these individuals like they're always an active client. And if you have that mindset when you're talking after they close on that first purchase or second purchase, it doesn't mean there's not going to be more. Yeah. There should be assumed that there's going to be more.
Yeah, and if you do call them and they don't know who you are, you're not calling enough.
Correct.
You've got to remind the person of who you are.
That's a bummer.
Remember me, you realtor?
All right, so I mean, obviously every lead source and these calls, it's going to have different scripts, different things to say. But I'll just start off this conversation is you just got to know how to overcome the objections and talk about the things that are on people's minds right now.
You do. And this is sort of tricky because sales, if you're a really, really good salesperson, you're not really the one doing all the talking. You're actually the one doing all the listening. So selling isn't telling. Selling is asking good questions and then listening. Okay? So the best salespeople are the best question askers. I find that when my clients hesitate to make calls, whether it's lead follow-up calls or prospecting calls, it's because they don't know what to say and they're worried about getting tongue twisted. And that's okay when you start out. I mean, I used to. Then you got to do anything. What Zig Ziglar says, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you can get good at it, right? So there are scripts that exist. And once again, you're going to say to me, I don't use scripts. Scripts don't work. Scripts are silly. And for every one of those, I'll show you a client who's making tons of money using them. Okay, so there are scripts that exist for sale by owners, for expired, for your center of influence. There are scripts that exist, and you can call me anytime or email me and I'll shoot you over some. Or if you have a specific group of people that you talk to, I can help you with that as well. But once again, like we were talking about earlier, with your sphere of influence, it's just never been easier than it is right now. The objections we get are the same. My listing expired on the market. I couldn't get the price I wanted. I'm looking at interviewing a different agent, or I'm going to hire the same agent even though my listing expired. I mean, the objections start to run over and start to be the same. So you can practice objection handlers. And They don't sound manufactured. I'm working off a script right now as we speak. I'm a big believer in being scripted. And the more confident you get when you know what to say, the more you're going to want to go out and say it, right? And so, like, I have people practice their listing presentation so many times that they're just bursting to go give it to somebody, right? And so practicing what to say, practicing with people, practicing with your coach or your team leader, practicing while you're driving in the car on the way to an appointment. I'm a big fan of knowing what to say because you're going to want to say it if you do.
Well, I always say a couple things with this. Number one, when you do say, okay, I'm going to start my prospecting today, I'm going to call for the next 3 hours. I always start with the easy ones. I always start with the ones that I know they're going to answer the phone, and it's going to be a great conversation because it gets me warmed up. It makes me feel good about the rest of the calls. But as far as scripts go, you have to start with a script where whatever you're going out after, you just can't say, oh, scripts don't work, I'm not going to use scripts. I get to a point though where I've done it enough. Well, now I don't need the script anymore because that script is so ingrained in my head. But to say I'm going to start making calls and not have any scripts in front of me, and I'm going to start making calls and I've never done calls before, it's tough.
It is, and we all kind of sound like robots when we first start out. We kind of sound like we're reading and stuff like that, and that's fine. This is a true story. I have put someone with a very, very thick Russian accent on the phone, listening to her prospect right next to her. She had never seen a for sale by owner script in her life. She did the most crappy rendition of it on the phone. I watched her set an appointment just going down and reading questions. I saw it happen with my own two eyes. And so, talk to enough people and eventually one's going to stick. But this stuff does work. And like Mike, you said, the more you use a script and internalize it, the less it's going to sound it and less you're going to need it.
All right. So this is the tough stuff. So I'm always kind of curious, and we'll talk offline, Nick, but I know there's a level of people that at some point during the segment just checked out of the webinar. And if we could track it, I'm pretty confident most of them come January won't be renewing their dues. I'm just going to say it because this is the tough stuff. This is how you this is the, people want to, what's the secret to real estate? It's not really a secret. But if it was a secret, this is it.
I was paying attention to it. We were doing really well. We only had 3 people drop off until we got to scripts, and we just lost 10.
All right. Well, yeah. And it's just what top producers are doing. It's as simple as that. So I
think scripts are kind of like the time blocking thing. People don't want to do them because they're hard. A script is a scary word for what you're already saying when you're talking to people about real estate related activity. But like Mindy said, just start doing it. I mean, do it in front of the mirror, do it to your dog, do it to a friend, a coworker, another agent in the office. Just start getting reps in. If it is on the phone and you're practicing reading the script, just getting the rep, just get the rep. Again, it becomes way less scarier the more you do it.
All right. So Mindy's information is up there on the screen. If you're interested in chatting with her, maybe about her, how she can help you and some of the programs that she has. But more importantly, if you want to get a hold of some of her scripts, reach out to her and email her. And so I'm going to offer something. Didn't ask Nick's permission, but Nick, I don't really need your permission.
Have you ever asked my permission for anything?
No. So every Thursday, I get together. I invite, my team to the corporate office here to make their calls. Generally, when we have new agents, I let them just sit there. I put all my calls on speakerphone, and they get to hear me sometimes succeed, sometimes not, and so forth. So, so if anyone listening to this webinar would like to join me Thursday morning here at the corporate office from 9 to 12, you can just sit there and listen to me make my calls. So,
love this. And Mike, I did hear you on the phone last week. I heard you from down the hall.
Yeah, I get a little loud. I get a little passionate.
I was so happy.
All right. I never know exactly what that means, but we'll talk about that later. All right. We'll leave everybody with the quote of the day. Failure is the condiment that gives success its flavor. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I had to read that. I gotta start reading these ahead of time.
That would be awesome.
All right. Appreciate
that.
All right. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Go out, and sell a home.